Hey, welcome to Black Cat. Today we're going to be talking about the Ape Defense Congo 17 slide for the Glock 17. So I've had the slide for about 8 months now and shot about 3,500-ish rounds through it. Most of that ammo has been AAC 115 grain, some Remington 124, some S&B 124, and some Federal 124. Some quick words about how I've got this all set up real quick. You can see we've got the Congo 17 slide on top of it, a Trijicon SRO, and then it's just a regular Glock 17 frame with a Glock Performance trigger installed, along with this Align Tactical thumb rest. Initial impressions. So this came in a box, got it right here, and came with the slide here as you see it, as well as the optic plate or the optic cover plate there. And aesthetically, I think it looks fantastic. The very aggressive serrations up front are not only look good, but are very easy to grip onto, very easy to get purchases, clear malfunctions, all that sort of stuff. The iron sights, nothing fancy going on there, no fiber, just regular blade sights, and they look great. Personally, I think that setting back that front sight about 3/4 of an inch looks cool in my opinion, and you don't really lose a whole lot of accuracy. It brings you back to about that Glock 19, Glock 45 sight radius, which is perfectly fine, especially because you're going to be using this in conjunction with an optic. What I've been using it for, I've been shooting a lot of competitions with this. You'll probably see some B-roll of me doing so. And I used to just shoot a regular Glock 17, and then I thought to myself, wouldn't this be great if this was ported? I had a Glock 45 with a Radian Ramjet at the time, and I thought that shot kind of cool, definitely better than a stock Glock 45, and was looking for something equivalent on the Glock 17 while still keeping that overall profile of the Glock 17. So here, this is kind of cheating because it's a Safariland holster, but it just fits in no problem. Same with this Bravo concealment holster I got here. The slide fits in no issues with that because it is the same form factor, same length as a stock Glock 17 slide. You can see here, this one is the original one that came on my 17. That is the same overall length. So got that. And one of the main selling points of this slide is that giant, they call it the chunk port cut into that slide there. And it does exactly what you think it does. This massively reduces recoil, and you get some very, very fast split times with this, at least for me. However, it should be said there is no free lunch. I've had some issues with this slide. 2,500-ish rounds, my recoil spring assembly sheared at the back there. And it's hard to tell because of the lighting here, but this is a exceptionally dry recoil assembly. I like to lubricate the springs as much as possible just because it's good for the springs to be slightly oiled, and I would do that every time, but due to this port, when the gases come out through that port, it gets trapped inside the slide, and that just dries out all the lubricant or oil that you had inside of the gun. And I didn't notice any issues with reliability. However, it did break that part at right about 2,500 rounds. What I have in it at the moment is just a stock Glock 17 recoil spring, and I've shot about another 1,000 rounds through that, and it feels the exact same as the one that comes from Ape Defense. However, I haven't encountered any issues with that yet. Some other issues that come from having that port as well is overheating. I live in Arizona, and you can actually see one of the things I've done to mitigate heat with this is I've spray painted my slide and the entire gun actually. This just reduces the effect of the sun just sort of heating up the metal. It gives it an extra layer to sort of absorb heat. However, with all those gases being expelled not only out the front of the barrel, but also into the slide, it heats up those internals, dries it out, and I found that after about 80 to 100 rounds out in the sun, this does start to heat up quite quickly. My solution to that is I'm going to go apply another coat of paint just to sort of add another layer of thermal protection for myself when I'm handling this slide, but that is something that I think is worth noting. Another sort of issue that I encountered was slight inaccuracy. Due to this giant port being cut in the barrel, the rifling of the barrel actually continues past this port. And why that's an issue is you have this gap here in the rifling that allows for the bullet, especially a full metal jacket, to slightly get cut up a little. And I've had some issues where I've actually personally, while standing behind the gun, been hit with tiny chunks of copper from the jacket. And I noticed it about, depending on the ammo I'm using, roughly 1 in 10 rounds will sort of be a bit of a flyer. And that's not necessarily like, hey, I completely missed, but if I'm shooting a group at 15 or 25 yards, I'll notice one round is definitely far out from the other ones. And that could just be me. However, due to me noticing that jacket separation, as well as like the port, I understand the physics behind that. I understand that this could mechanically happen. I suspect that it is due to the port in the barrel. A recommendation for me, I personally would not carry this and do not carry it. You can see just how I have it set up is as a competition gun. I've got this big old sight on it. I have the thumb rest, the gas pedal, but right around that 2500 mark, due to experiencing that malfunction with the recoil spring, it did not stop the gun from functioning. However, that's a critical aspect that just kind of broke. I don't 100% trust this. And if you just swapped out your recoil spring every 2,000 rounds, I guess you could get around that. But me personally, most Glocks are supposed to go about 8 to 10K round without needing that recoil assembly swapped out. So that for me is sort of puts me on edge a little, and I don't fully trust it. However, I have had no malfunctions with this firearm other than that recoil spring. I have experienced stoppages. However, I'm fairly certain that's due to the ammo that I'm using. You'll see in some of the footage here, AAC is just not the greatest. I think I just got a bad batch, but I believe that that was the issue that I was encountering. Had no issues running S&D, no issues running the Federal, no issues running the Remington. I like to bring this out on range days. I'll probably bring this. This is one of the few guns that always comes along with me. Even though I have said that I had some issues with that recoil spring, this gun always comes out with me. It is just an absolute blast to shoot, and especially in a competition, that big old port gives you a noticeable advantage. One downside to that, however, is it does usually move you up into the open class if you are shooting in competition. I don't have a flared magwell or anything else really, aside from that big old port, but that does push me up into that more competitive bracket. So that is something to keep in mind. There's definitely something that could be said for how compact it is, but competition-wise, I think that there's some better options out there, like maybe just getting a threaded barrel for a 17 and like a KKM compensator, I think would be a much better choice. Thanks for watching. I'm a new channel, so it would be super helpful if you could like and subscribe, and reach out to me in the comments section, and I'll try to answer whatever questions you have. Have a good one.